Love definitely makes the cut. It's 14 minutes past 5 p.m. on this 29th day of the first month in 2025, a wild and wonderful Wednesday, as I like to call it, and the very last for the month. Well, our conversation, the last one for Hard Facts for today, is about the NCC and Telecom operators enforcing a USSD debt deadline. And they say there will be no extension to that deadline because monies owed must be paid. Now, the NCC and telcos have enforced a deadline for banks to clear their USSD debt with no extension granted. While some banks have complied, 5 or 6 in default, the next phase of debt repayment is set for July and December 2025. Non-compliance could result in service disruptions. This move ensures financial accountability and the continued availability of USSD banking services for millions of Nigerians. The chairman of the Association of Licensed Telecommunication Operators of Nigeria, Gbenga Adebayo, made this known on Monday. Now, there's a whole lot more to this report. It's a longer one, giving some context to it. So the banks basically are owing the telcos. From my level of understanding of the situation, and because our money has not been paid, there are disruptions to USSD services. I don't know if that's what I experienced yesterday, because I remember trying to recharge my phone using the USSD code for my bank, and it did not work. I just can't remember the error message I got, and so I decided to use the app. So maybe it has been enforced. They say there's no extension of the deadline, and yes, that has passed. But we need to understand what it is, how we got here, but most importantly, how to get out of here, because this is not a beautiful place. And to help us bring us to that place of understanding is Mr. Osondu Nwokoro. He's a communications, law, regulation, and policy expert. So he basically understands this business. Good evening, Mr. Nwokoro. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for having me on here.
All right. It's a pleasure. Now, Mr. Nwokoro worked with the NCC and at Airtel, one of the telcos, where he was Regulatory Affairs Director. So it's safe to say that he very much understands where we are and how we got here. But let me ask like I don't understand, because honestly, there are parts that I don't get. Mr. Nwokoro, what is the problem? Please explain it to me like I'm a kid. What exactly is the problem?
Thank you again. Good evening. It's basically, in simple terms, it's basically you use my service, you used my car, you drove my car, and then you are not paying me for drive for the use of the car, or for the petrol, at least for the petrol that you expended in driving that when you drove the car, that you burned when you drove the car. It's as simple as that.
Now, did we have an agreement that I was going to give you something, or are you giving it to me as a friend?
No, we have a formal agreement. It's a formal agreement between you and myself. You use my car to go to Stimulary to see in Port Harcourt to William Jumbo to see your friend, and you return the car to me thereafter. Okay. And then you will pay for you will refuel the car.
Okay.
As to how much you refuel the car when you return it. So there's an agreement. We agreed on that, and then you bring back the car. You refuse to refuel the car. The tank is empty, and you refuse to refuel it.
Okay. So if I refuse to do it the first time, why did you give me the car the second time?
Okay. You're asking very apt questions. Let me now go into the real scenario. It's a continuum. It's a continuous use. It's a continuous use. So the telcos, the banks are connected to the telcos.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that connection cannot be disrupted except the regulators approve of it. Just like MTN, you're calling MTN from Airtel, the Airtel line. MTN, okay, remember some time ago there was this statement about late last year that NCC approved for MTN to disconnect Globacom from its network because of interconnect debt that Globacom was owing. It's simply that same kind of thing. You cannot, a telco cannot disconnect a certain kind of service providers that are connected to its network without the approval of the regulator. So the service, the service kept on still running. The banks kept on still using the service. While invoices were being sent to them, they were not paying for the invoices, they were not settling the invoices, and the regulator was not giving the consent to disconnect them.
Yeah.
The regulator was wanting to work with the CBN, and the CBN was not aligning the regulator, the NCC, that is, to grant consent for the service to be disconnected, because banking isn't an essential service.
So, who do we blame? That means a large part of the blame would be on the table of the regulator and then the banks.
Yes, so they seem to focus more on preserving the public interests than protecting the commercial interests of the telcos.
Okay.
So that was what, based on that, they were made to grant approval for the banks to disconnect, for the banks to be disconnected.
Okay, so how important, how crucial would you say USSD is to banking in general, to Nigerians unbanked and underbanked population? Is it that important that we can't do without it?
Oh yes, so USSD it's a platform. It's a platform, a format through certain kind of data services can be processed and executed.
Mm.
So you give an instruction, pay. You send 233 or whatever navigate me or 739 or so.
Yeah.
That 739 is already programmed in the network. Whenever 739 comes, it's recognized as coming on MTN. It's recognized as MTN as programmed as a signal from every bank, from FCMB or UB or so.
Okay.
So once 733 comes, it's also agreed means pay money through my network. Pay money routing through my network.
Mm.
So the bank will release the money, and then the information will be routed through MTN network back to the subscriber and back to the bank to affirm the release of the funds or whatever the transaction is issued. So the banks are actually using the network of the network facility of the telcos.
Telcos, yeah.
So it's quite useful when you're talking about electronic banking, you're talking about financial inclusion. So there are some people who do not have internet access. You don't necessarily need internet access to, and so cannot do online banking.
Yeah.
The online banking, internet banking, etc. But they can carry out remote transactions virtually via USSD. So for those who don't have full access to internet, the USSD is a means of executing electronic banking.
Okay.
Not internet banking, but electronic banking.
Yeah.
And electronic banking facilitates financial inclusion. So you can see why the government agencies were a bit uncomfortable to give instructions for the service to be disconnected.
Yeah, because the disruption would be huge.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have just 2 minutes between the break. And I know that you may not be able to answer this question, but I'm itching to ask it. Why did the banks not pay their debt?
I'll answer. There are two reasons there.
Okay.
The first reason is, you know how it is. First of all, the banks officially will say that they are disputing the debt. That's what they will say. That's the official reason. They will dispute the debt. They felt there was something inappropriate about this debt processing. But then they didn't dispute it through the normal process. They made the issue through the normal process. And secondly here, it seems that the central bank was siding with them.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because you have to realize, I'm going to say this as it is, you have to realize that the CBN governor used to be CEO of Zenith Bank.
Of a bank, yes. True.
And Zenith Bank is one of the biggest debtors in the whole scenario. I mean, the shareholder in Zenith Bank, most likely.
Okay.
So his constituency will get to him and say, do not grant this approval.
Well, that's a sad and sorry situation that we found ourselves. But of course, right here we talk for development. We'll take that break now. And after that, hopefully, Mr. Nwokoro, you can tell us what steps must be taken to ensure we do not end up here again. Please stay with us.
Thank you.
still is Hard Facts in 92.3 Nigeria Info. I'm Sam Oracle Chinedu. And our conversation for this hour, NCC and Telcos enforce USSD debt deadline. My guest has been Mr. Osondu Nwokoro. He's a communications, law, regulation, and policy specialist. You're welcome once again, Mr. Nwokoro. Hello, sir. Are you there?
Yes, good afternoon.
Okay. Welcome back. So you gave us quite the perspective as to what it is and how we got here. You even told us why some of the banks refused to pay. Now, do you think, I think you've kind of answered this question already, but I'll still ask, do you think that the government needs to intervene more aggressively, particularly the regulators, to ensure that, we don't have a recurrence of something like this?
Yes, I think so. I believe so. In fact, I expect so. This was not good thing. This whole incident does not. This is not a good picture. It does not paint a good picture of the environment, regulatory environment, to be investing public, but especially foreign investors.
Okay.
So we need to ensure that investors have confidence in the process, in the regulatory process, and the works. This did not happen in this instance. We expect that with a new EVC, who we can say is created pushing through EVC as a commission NCC, we can say is created pushing through this mandate to the banks to make this payment. I believe there will not be a repeat of this.
Okay, and yeah, go ahead, please. Sorry, I didn't know you went down.
There will be some. I believe that going forward, there will be some guardrails put in place, and we put in place to ensure that this does not happen.
Okay.
Some regulatory guardrails.
All right. Now, if this service disruption persists, if it continues, what alternatives exist for users who depend on USSD for banking? What options do they have?
It will be tough. We'll simply be going back to how it was about before the advent of USSD. If they have, if they can upgrade to internet banking, otherwise, it's a regression really. I can't think of any alternative right now. It's just like you're used to sleeping, on the bed. What alternative do you have? You either, on a regular mattress, either sleep on a water bed, which is an enhancement, or on the floor, which is retrogression, Yeah. So in this instance, I can't think that any alternative beyond upgrading to internet banking will actually be a retrogression.
Yeah. And do you think that at this time, Nigeria is ready to fully transition to mobile or internet banking? Are we there yet?
It's not rocket science. I mean, fully transition, I don't know. What we should be looking at is, what I believe we are looking at is deadlines or timelines or milestones for upgrades and increased uptake to be defined and met. That's really how it will happen.
Okay.
I don't think we should be talking about full and complete migration to internet banking just yet. It's not fully ready. You need to have internet access all across the country, everywhere, for that to happen. And we don't have that. That's the foundation. We don't have that yet.
Okay, finally, what steps must be taken? We're seeking solutions now. What is a sustainable strategy to ensure that the banks can pay, the telcos can deliver, the regulators are regulating, and we, the customers or the consumers, are getting value?
So the regulators, the NCC and Central Bank being alive to their response and vigilant, and the like I said, the guardrail actions being taken. Proposal, for example, if the debt of a telco or the debt of XYZ of a bank to a telco attains maybe XYZ threshold, then the telco will be the bank will be notified, and the central bank and CB and SB also be notified, and then the central bank and SB will commit to giving an order to disconnect in the event that threshold is exceeded.
Okay. All right. That's wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Nwokoro, for your time. We truly appreciate it. I'm hoping that we have other opportunities to engage.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Have a wonderful day, sir. Okay, so you heard the expert. It is because someone refused to pay their debt. That's why we are exactly where we are. Now, my question for you is, if the disruption in USSD service continues, how is it going to affect your daily financial transactions? Now, I said yesterday I was trying to recharge my phone because I ran out of airtime. And when I tried USSD, it seemingly didn't work. I wasn't quite sure if, my bank was affected. So I just went to the app and I was able to do that. But do you have the option of doing that? How is it going to affect your daily routine? Now, understand that some banks do not have this problem because they have paid. And even though there were some banks that had this problem, between the pronouncement and the deadline, they also were able to pay. Would you switch to a bank that guarantees uninterrupted USSD services if the bank you're with did not pay their debt? Those are the questions I'm hoping you can answer. 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003. WhatsApp is 080-903-0646. Live on Facebook and Twitter at Nigeria InfoPH. Drop your comments on those platforms. If USSD services, if the disruption continues, how would it affect your daily financial transaction? And would you consider switching to a bank that works as regards the USSD issue if yours has this problem? Call me and tell me. A message on WhatsApp reads, "Good evening, Sam. I'm banking with," and he mentions his bank here. He said, "That's my salary account. The bank charges me heavily on a monthly basis. Jaja. You're using this opportunity to complain about another issue. Apologies for the charges. I receive it where I am too." But we're talking about USSD. This comment reads, "These banks make so much money from the public and they couldn't pay the telcos their money for USSD code. It's quite pathetic." Day Sayefa says on WhatsApp. The next message here, which is an interesting one, simply says, "Happy New Year, Nigeria Info." Well, Happy New Year to you too. Rogers calls from Transamadi. Good evening, Rogers.
Yes, good evening, Sam. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Okay, I'm good. I'm calling to talk about the USSD service disruption with respect to the pending debt.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually going to adversely affect customers, no doubt.
Okay.
But we have already started suffering the defect. Because a typical example is one of the banks, I wouldn't want to mention name for purposes of sanity.
Yeah.
The moment you dial the USSD app, you call up the USSD app, they deduct 6 naira 98 kobo. Whether your transaction will be successful or not, they deduct it. It will fail 10 times, they will deduct that money 10 times.
Wow.
And even if you answer it once, 6 naira 98 kobo has been deducted 10 times from you, and there's no refund so far. So it's been really bad. I don't know what other suffer will go through when the service is eventually stopped.
Okay. But are you personally affected? Is your bank affected? Are you able to transact with USSD at this time?
In fact, I've stopped using that app since after the major disruption over 2 months. No compensation.
Okay.
So I've stopped using it.
All right. Thank you, Rogers. Moses calls from Omagwa. Good evening, Moses.
Thank you, Sam. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes. Please, I want to beg, I want to ask, tell me how you can read out the names of those banks. Because some of us are suffering the same thing. It's just that let the public know also, because since we are operating under these banks and they cannot pay their bills, then there's a problem.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Moses. Thank you. It's basically a class captain reeling out names of noisemakers. So honestly, I don't have that list right now. And even if I do, I would not, right? Because it's a problem that we're looking, let me not say we, I'm not on the team trying to solve this problem. It's a developing issue, right? So we're still in the process of ensuring that things work. Calling out the banks, I get what you're saying from the perspective of public interest, right? So that people can avoid the banks. It still qualifies as demarketing, right? And I don't think that's something I want to do. If you have tried to use USSD and it did not work for you, it is safe to assume that your bank is affected. It is also safe to hope that they do the right thing so that you can get reconnected. But this just might not be the time, or I might not be in the best position to tell you, yeah, see them, or you see this one, you see this bank. Avoid them. And just be managing them for now. Hopefully, in a few days, things will be better. Kurt calls from Uniport. Good evening, Kurt.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
My brother, I surprised because I don't know why the bank chooses not to pay this bill. They are not telling us that his customers of the bank are owing this money. Before you use that USS code, before they deliver a message, you have already been charged. So what is the problem that they don't want to pay? Because nobody would like to stay without cash.
True.
They will cause something that people will get angry and start to react to their serious bank. So if they know something right now, they should go and sort out the problem. For me, I don't use such bank. But if I use it, I will switch over to the bank who I can access easily.
Yeah.
Not those banks that will collect my money, they will not be meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kurt. So Kurt says if he has that problem, he's switching to a bank that can give him the value that he deserves. That's interesting. Keep the calls coming in, 08179230002. You can send messages to WhatsApp and Facebook. WhatsApp is 080-903-06416. And Facebook is at Nigeria Info PH. If and when you call, please turn off your radio. It's very important. If my bank falls into that category, a message on WhatsApp reads, I definitely would change bank because that would affect me. My reasons are that if there are internet issues, I resort to USSD for transactions from Day CFI. Yeah, that's very true. You want to bank on the app and internet because it's convenient. I honestly do not even remember what a recharge card looks like. In fact, I can't remember the code. Then when you buy a recharge card, you type in a code before putting in that PIN and then hash. I can't remember what that is because I haven't used a physical card in the longest time. But through the bank, right? So open your app, you can recharge straight, you can use the USSD code, it's convenient. And the day that the app fails you, you just go back to using the USSD code. So I can understand Sayefa's position. Wilcox from Wimpy. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Wilcox, and I'm calling from Port Harcourt, precisely by Wimpy.
All right.
You see, I think it is criminal that this bank will withhold these charges. Because, just like other callers have said, this money is deducted even before your messages are sent.
Yeah.
And then, they even, what the Channel Communication Services is for per message is 4 naira. But some banks take up to 6 naira, 90 something kobo, which is approximately 7 naira. Now, which is almost times 2. What stops them from taking their own and deliver the one that concerns the telecommunication services and then disrupting public services or service given to a customer? So to me, I term it as being criminal.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm being so harsh, but then that's how I look at it.
I understand. I completely understand. Thank you for calling. Lady U on WhatsApp says, "Hi, Sam. Rochas is absolutely correct. And it mentions a bank here. Once you dial their code, they will deduct 6 naira. You did it 52 times to me last month. Wow. Well, you have to give us more data. Were those 52 successful transactions or failed?" Ogu Justice says, "Banks dodging responsibility is a result of the CBN compromising their statutory responsibility." And that's from Ogu Justice on WhatsApp. Thank you very much. I have a call coming in. Hopefully, I will be able to talk to that person shortly. But let's see, do I have comments on Facebook? I'm looking that up. Okay, Ferdinand calls from a farm. Hello, Ferdinand. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening. Please go ahead.
And what I'm trying to say is this. Let them not bring an any bank for us again, no. We don't want to experience what we have been experiencing some days ago concerning some banks. I'm very much happy that I'm not even using any of this code. I go straight and withdraw my money, and my bank is very, very perfect bank that they cannot even try all these things.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that all these banks that are owing without paying is another fraud. It's another fraud because once we withdraw money, they collect their rent. We withdraw, they collect. We are not owing them. No customer owes them. So I see no reason why them too, they should be owing.
Okay.
Now, trying to frustrate customers or people banking in their companies. It's not ideal. So whatever they are doing, they should rectify it immediately so that the public will feel free and be their customers continually.
All right.
Thank you.
Hold on, Ferdinand. Don't you make transfers? Do you transfer money?
Hello?
Do you transfer money? Do you make transfers from your account?
Yes, I do.
How do you do it?
No, I go straight to bank. Even if I want to withdraw 1 million naira, I go straight to bank. If I want to withdraw any amount, I go straight to bank.
You don't do transfer with your phone at all. Okay, what if you want to transfer at midnight? You want to send money 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. What do you do?
I will not even do that because I always avoid the fraud.
No, wait.
If I want to transfer, if the person I want to transfer cannot wait,
yes,
the money I go to bank.
Okay, Ferdinand, it's an emergency. Somebody is in the hospital, somebody you know, and they need to pay money to the hospital immediately. So this one is not fraud, it's not scam. What do you do? How do you give them that money?
The doctor will wait, because my own account, I will tell you that you should wait. Whatever you are doing, if the person who is under emergency, the doctor should go ahead.
Okay.
I cannot do anything to transfer money as long as I'm concerned. That's my own personal decision.
Okay.
That anything, no matter how it is, no matter how emergency it will be, I will not do any transaction because I have done it before and they duped me.
Oh, my.
Seriously duping. And in fact, I almost died.
Sorry.
I now stop it.
Okay. Well, the man has spoken. If he can't walk into the banking hall, physically withdraw the cash and handle that transaction, Ferdinand is not interested. Now, I'm concerned about buying something like land, right? You and I know that for real estate, you're not buying it 5K. Depending on the location, you're very likely going to spend to the tune of millions. Are you going to go and withdraw 10 million? So you get this land, distress sale. These people just Japan now. Ferdinand, 10 million. This one is not fraud. Sorry, I know you've been through a lot. You walk to a bank, say, manager, opportunity of a lifetime. Let's have it. I get it, but I mean, convenience and security are very important. All right. Banks dodging responsibility. I think I've taken this. Lady U says only 3 successful transactions. My goodness. Of the 52. Okay, that's not good. And finally, Wanete West says those banks failed USSD should go to sort out their problems. After all the charging banks charge, it's enough to settle their debt. Wanete says, well, this is as far as we can go on this conversation. Thanks for being a part of it. A commercial will play now, and after that, we'll have the news at 6. Please stay with us.